Welcome to a brand new episode of Part of the Problem. I am Dave Smith. He is Robbie the Fire Bernstein. How are you, good sir?
Good, but do we look like assholes or are we double downing here? I didn't get the I didn't get the notes before the show. What direction are we going in?
Well, let's get into it. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, can I plug gigs real quick?
Oh yeah, plug your gigs.
I got a busy weekend. I got Raleigh, North Carolina, Hampstead, North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, and then I'm off to Oklahoma City, Granbury, Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana, and the Secret Group. All the links are on porchstore.com except for the Secret Group, which you can find on their website. And then, of course, you and I, we got big gigs coming up.
Oh, yeah. We got Denver Comedy Works, Cleveland Hilarities, Denver and Cleveland coming up real soon. Those are the next two. And they are going to this is my first time doing Denver Comedy Works, but like, all of my bros are like, it's their favorite club. Like Ari and Jay and all those guys always say they love Denver Comedy Works. So, and I know for years we have a big fan base out in Denver, and we've never done a show there together, me and you. So I'm very excited to do a full weekend at Denver Comedy Works. And then Cleveland Hilarities is just, that's up there in a very short list of like my absolute favorite comedy clubs in the country. So I'm very excited to be back at both those places. And then I got the Comedy Mothership, the biggest one. So I got a lot of fun stuff coming up. comicdavesmith.com for all of those ticket links. Okay. So, what a 24 hours. I mean, look, I got to say, man, and I've been obsessed with politics for just under 20 years. It was in 2007, Ron Paul's presidential campaign, that I really got interested in this stuff. So it's whatever that is, 18 years. I've just been obsessed with this stuff. I've been podcasting about it for probably, I think I've been doing Part of the Problem in one capacity or another for about 13 years. And then we've done it me and you have done it together now for, when was it, 2016? Me and you started, I think you came on the podcast. It feels
like 8 or 9 years or something.
Something like that. We're closing in on a decade of me and you doing this together. And I will say the last week has been up there with the craziest weeks of us covering stuff. I mean, we've in this decade, we've seen some things. We saw lockdowns and riots and wars and all types of different crazy shit. But this has been wild. And just the last 24 hours, I mean, we were recording yesterday at this time. So 24 hours ago today, the word was Iran just launched a bunch of missiles toward U.S. bases, and it seemed like this could be the start of a major escalation in this war. What happened in the 24 hours since is quite a lot, so we'll try to get through all of it. But of course, as you guys probably know by now, it came out. There maybe even, I think there were, I believe on the show, I read one report that Iran had given advanced warning. That was confirmed by all sides very shortly after we got off the podcast. So the Qataris, the Iranians, and the Americans, Donald Trump himself, all confirmed that yes, Iran gave advanced warning so that to minimize casualties, which ended up being zero. So they didn't kill anybody because they let everybody know exactly where they were targeting. And Donald Trump seemed to signal that he was going to take that off ramp, and that would be, this would be the end of it. Okay. They responded, but the response didn't do anything. So now we're going to move toward peace. Donald Trump then announced that a ceasefire agreement had been reached between Israel, Iran, and the United States of America. The Iranians then said, we've never even been showed a ceasefire agreement, let alone come to an agreement on one. Then they were saying, yes, we will agree to a ceasefire. Then the Israelis bombed Iran again, and then Trump got very upset about that. I guess let's just go right into, because there's so many different angles here to cover. Sorry, go ahead.
I would only add one detail to that, which is the ceasefire, at least as the way it was tweeted, in classic Trump fashion, we haven't actually seen what the arrangement was or proof that everyone agreed to it or what exactly was worked out. But in classic Trump fashion, he claimed, hey, deal's already been done. And the deal included, off the top of my head, it was 12 more hours of strikes that the Iranians were allowed to engage in and 24 more hours of strike that the Israelis were allowed to engage in. It's a little bit odd to have a ceasefire, but allow people to get in their last licks. That does seem like there's still room for escalations. It's odd for one party to get 12 hours and the other party to get 24 hours. And then the issue of discontent, or at least from Trump's press conference, was that the first round of bombing from Israel, I think, was the biggest one yet within the 24-hour period. And then apparently Israel claims that Iran struck them back just after the time period. And so that they were then firing back on Iran. Trump claiming that that was a very small attack and that perhaps was fired before the deadline. Kind of speaks to the stupidity of the 12 and 24-hour periods of continuous strikes. But Trump does seem to be pretty adamant of, hey, you told me that there was one objective here, which was taking out their nuclear program. That's done. I mean, he's not going to give us any proof of the fact that that's been completely neutralized. But as far as Trump's concerned, that is completely neutralized. And so there's no reason for any future escalations. And Israel needs to stop now trying to provoke a bigger fight because it's over. That seems to be where we're at. But Donald Trump's like flipping a coin where the news might change in 10 minutes and I look like an asshole again.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, we have no idea right now. Donald Trump was calling for Tehran to be evacuated and regime change a couple days ago. And now he's calling for this, but he also was saying that they were negotiating a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and then turned around and said, the negotiations were just a ruse in order to trick the Iranians. So maybe this is another ruse to trick the Iranians. Like, we don't know for sure. I will say that things look much more promising today than they did yesterday at this time. And, you know, I'm certain. Sorry,
I'd just like to clarify one more thing. Peace in the world is more important than whether or not I look like an asshole. And the tea leaves that I was going off of was really the J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio interviews, where they just seem to be so flagrantly lying about not looking for escalations while taking very provoking actions such as striking the country and without giving evidence of more of a plan or the end of the nuclear program. So that's kind of what it seemed to me like they were looking for escalations. But the latest indicator from Donald Trump is that he would like to be out and done with this, which is more important than whether or not yesterday I thought it looked like they were actually trying to escalate it.
All right, guys, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor for today's show, which is The Wellness Company. Have you been feeling off since taking the COVID vaccine? You're not alone, and new research backs it up. In a groundbreaking study, risk stratification for future cardiac arrest after the jab, Dr. Peter McCullough, who many of you know was an absolute hero throughout the entire COVID insanity, he highlights an alarming rise in sudden cardiac events among young and previously healthy individuals. His study found that tiny hidden patches of heart inflammation, often missed by doctors, could silently be building up, leading to a sudden heart attack during exercise or sleep. That's why the Wellness Company created the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, crafted with 100% natural ingredients, specifically designed to help your body clear harmful spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health. Don't wait until symptoms strike. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to tell the truth during COVID. Head on over to twc.health/problem. Oh, I will gladly take avoiding a catastrophe here and dealing with people saying, "Oh, you were an alarmist," or you dropped Donald Trump too quickly or something like that. But, I got to say, I don't really think we were wrong yesterday. The fact that a catastrophe may be averted doesn't mean we weren't flirting with a catastrophe. And the fact is that the president of the United States was screaming about regime change, which would have led to an absolute disaster. So I don't think we were wrong to be speaking up against that. I've heard from people on Twitter who are like, "Oh, Dave, I thought this was supposed to turn into World War III. Where's your World War III?" And I'm like, first of all, I never predicted that this was going to turn into World War III. I said that, look, here's the thing that I think is there's a lot of stuff I think that happened here, and this is maybe one of the positives of it. But I think there's a lot of kind of eye-opening things that have happened even just in the last 24 hours, like just the last day. And I'm hoping that some people see this. Number one, and I think maybe I made this point yesterday on the show, but now that it's happened, I think it's really important to hit this home again. Number one, there is something very revealing. Like there's a lot of information that you get from the fact that once again, just like after Soleimani was killed, but except this time it's a much bigger deal. They didn't just take off, kill an Iranian general in Iraq. They bombed the heck out of the country and bombed their like legal nuclear program. And still, Iran gives advanced notice so that Americans aren't killed. Now, I'm sorry, but that tells you something about that regime. And it really, really undercuts the entire neocon premise for why we have to be in a conflict with Iran to begin with. Their whole argument is that if Iran gets nukes, Iran is so evil and crazy that they will just use them because they're religious fanatics who don't care about their own survival. They're essentially a regime of suicide bombers. So if they get a nuke, they're going to nuke Israel, and then they don't even care that they know nukes are going to be flying back in their directions. That foundational claim to this entire conflict is just been so tremendously weakened at this point, because you're telling me that these are suicidal maniacs, but even when their country has been attacked, in a war of aggression, even when they've been attacked, they still don't want it, which is what this is consistent with everything Iran has done for the last 25 years. They do not want it. They don't, and for very obvious reasons. Of course, they want it. They don't want to actually end up killing Americans, because if they did kill a bunch of Americans, what do you think Donald Trump's response to that would have been? It would have been total destruction of the country and that catastrophe that we were talking about. But it's a catastrophe first and foremost for the mullahs. The Ayatollah is not coming out of that thing alive if we went that direction. And so actually, it seems that like most human beings, they are motivated by self-preservation, and that they would much rather continue to rule their country than be killed. That's how, human beings tend to be. And even really, really bad people. Joseph Stalin had nuclear weapons and Mao Zedong had nuclear weapons. These are amongst the most evil human beings who have ever lived. But they didn't just go and nuke another country for no reason, because even they knew that if they did that, nukes would be flying back at them and then they would die. And they did not wish to die. They wished to rule. And so I think that is one of the first, and most important takeaways of the last 24 hours. But if you think about it, because I've had quite a few people telling me that, I was wrong to denounce Donald Trump and to rescind my support for him and all of that. But I don't think I was. And I wouldn't do it any different if I could go back. Look, think about the position that Donald Trump put this country in for absolutely no reason. He put us in the position that we were relying on Iranian restraint. This country that everyone tells you is the big bad wolf is such a thing that must be confronted and all of this. He put us in a position where it was only their restraint that allowed us to not get pulled into this war. Because look, we all know that if Iran had killed a bunch of Americans yesterday, which they could have done, and they chose not to do, that we would have just been lighting up Tehran right now. Today, we would be doing a much different podcast today if Iran hadn't given advanced warning to ensure that there were no casualties. We would be doing a much different podcast. We'd be lighting up Tehran right now and probably thinking about invading the country. And so thank God it didn't come to that. What a risky game to play. As I always have with Donald Trump, as you always have with Donald Trump, Rob, we'll call balls and strikes here. I will hammer him when he does bad things and praise him when he does good things. So very stupid to get us involved in this war. Incredibly reckless and risky, but good for Donald Trump. It's absolutely all of that being done. It's amazing if he can try to push a ceasefire deal now and pull us out of this. But I don't really think, I don't know. I'm not seeing how we were wrong. I didn't say ever that this will with certainty be another Iraq style war. I always said the danger is in the escalation. And it was the Iranians who gave us an off ramp. And in this case, that's just the facts, like however people feel about that. And then the other thing that I hope is revealed to some people is how much the Israelis just, it doesn't matter. It is such an outrage that they would do this after Donald Trump decided he didn't want to. Like, imagine that our fat welfare mom of a country who can't do anything without us, who just has gotten tens of billions of dollars of support from America, and we prop them up and we protect them and we fight wars on their behalf. We just fought a 12-day war on their behalf, and then they'll turn around and not only not try to convince Donald Trump, but go ahead and try to get him, go ahead and do it, and then try to get him dragged back into the war. I just don't, like, how do you not treat a country like that as an enemy of your country? It is just beyond wild.
Well, I think that really speaks to my personal confusion about where we're at the moment, because it seems like the Israelis still want regime change, and I guess they're without their lie at the moment of that Iran is looking to go nuclear. On the same note, if Iran was always looking to go nuclear, I don't exactly understand why after what just happened, they wouldn't continue to pursue those efforts, or they would just be done with those efforts. It could be, I guess, that they've got some sort of a security guarantee almost in Donald Trump's ego, that if Donald Trump can claim that he took away their entire nuclear program, he's not going to turn his back on them, and they can now actually sell oil in a more legitimate fashion to China and not have to hear that they're the enemy of the entire world. So maybe at least for the next couple of years, that's the best option that they've ever had. And they're actually willing to trust Donald Trump, even though there were definitely some deeks in the current process so far by him. It just seems like, I don't know, it seemed like a remarkable claim when he just said, hey, there's a ceasefire, and then there was reporting the Iranians didn't know about it, that there's a 12 and 24-hour period, that the Iranians were not looking to respond more aggressively and ramp up the cost for kind of bullying them in this fashion. And it's like, I don't know, on both sides, I could see the Iranians now being more aggressive, and that wouldn't validate that the previous theory had been true. But at the moment, they seem to be just not looking for the action, not looking for the fight. So I don't know. To me, it's just, I'm a little bit confused as to what happened here. And the most striking lie to me at the moment is just the idea that they were both 14 days away, and that this single strike, which has yet to be confirmed by anyone other than Donald Trump going, no, believe me, I'm telling you that's what happened. And then, it's the classic bluster. Well, I don't know. Has the intelligence community validated the fact that these assets have been completely taken out? Do you know where the centrifuges are? Do you know that you took out all the centrifuges? Do you know what happened to all of the enriched uranium? No, just trust me. I'm telling you, it's completely done and it's finished. So I find myself more lost in this storyline than the typical storylines that we cover.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's because it's just very unclear what is actually happening, and the point that you made there is absolutely correct. That should be, which is one of the most important ones. That it is completely ridiculous to sit here and claim that we've completely obliterated their nuclear capabilities. We have nothing to back that up. We really don't even know what exactly we've done and what we haven't done. And the regime is still in power. It looks like that's not going anywhere now, because really you need America to overthrow that regime. If Israel could do it on their own, they would have done it a long time ago. They can't, and that's why they are constantly trying to pressure America into doing it. But they already have the knowledge. I mean, they mastered the fuel cycle. They have sciences. They can get materials. They can rebuild what they have. And of course, we have now incentivized them more than ever to pursue nuclear weapons. So the whole thing just seems ridiculous and unnecessary. Let's play the clip that was making all the waves this morning. This is quite a turnaround for Donald Trump in the last few days. But here is what Donald Trump had to say earlier today.
Violated the peace agreement, the peace agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace? Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. You understand that?
You have to respond to Iran.
All right. So that was President Trump giving his thoughts on the violations of the ceasefire by both Israel and Iran. And I will say, I like when presidents curse. I do enjoy that. I think it's something that men should do. Let me say this, and then we can kind of you can give your thoughts on it, Rob. But let me just say this. A lot of people, as I mentioned yesterday, a lot of people were like a lot of Trump supporters were like thrilled with me. I've had this relationship with Trump supporters for many years at this point. My profile is higher than ever, so I get more of it now. But for many years, Rob, as Trump supporters would love me because I was, me and you were like amongst the best at smacking down the Russiagate bullshit. That was like a big focus on this show for many years. Was probably our number one issue for a while. And we were great at defending how he had obviously been framed by his intelligence agencies, and framing the sitting president of the United States of America for treason is a pretty big deal. And so we were very good on that. So the Trump supporters loved that. But then I'd come out and criticize his foreign policy or whatever, and the Trump supporters would be mad at me. They'd be like, when I came out and supported him and said I was going to vote for him, a lot of the Trump supporters were thrilled about that. When I came out and said I regret my vote and I take it back, a lot of them were furious at me about that. Look, when it comes down to it, my role in all of this, as I've always said, is like, I have to tell the truth. That's my promise to the audience. Like that's my job. My job is to make people laugh in comedy clubs and tell the truth on podcasts. That's what I'm supposed to do. And that's in these times. There's like, I'm not capable. I'm not smart enough or dishonest enough to like take into account all of the different calculations and all of this. It's like, just tell the truth. When there's a storm going on, you tell the truth. You just truth your way out of it. That's how I've always operated. That's what's gotten me here, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. There are a lot of Trump supporters, a lot. And some of them might be right to make this decision. There's a lot of very influential kind of right-wingers in this country who simply will not criticize Donald Trump himself. They'll criticize everyone else around him. They'll be against a policy that he's pursuing, but they will find a way not to criticize Donald Trump because that turns off a big part of their audience, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the guy who plays that game. And I'm also not going to just let him off the hook. And like, this is, okay, he said here, I'm mad at Israel. No, Israel shouldn't have done that. And now everybody's making a big deal about it. Oh, he said, he cursed and he brought up Israel. He was actually kind of harsh about them. This is the harshest we've ever seen him about Israel. It's like, okay, you just launched a war on their behalf, dude. You just took our country to the brink of catastrophe for this country that is now spitting in your face. It was Iranian restraint that kept us from being in a goddamn catastrophe right now, all on behalf of the Israelis. So is this all you got? Is this it? And what do we do after that? After this, go back to unconditionally supporting them? Donald Trump, at this point, he's been in for a while. Israel has kept up the destruction of Gaza this entire time, and Donald Trump's been financing it and arming the whole thing. So like, I'll believe this, or I'll be impressed by this when it comes with anything of substance. Anything. Is it so like, what do you're telling me that you want peace and Israel is undermining that but they still get more foreign aid than any other country from you. They still get all of this support. Why? Why should that be the case? So I'm sorry, like this isn't like winning me back over or convincing me I was wrong to be so harsh on Donald Trump for this. Donald Trump, you know, he calls it the 12-day war. That's what he dubbed it. It's not clear that that's over at all. Usually you wait to be sure. The conclusion, like, I don't know, Rob, like, I don't know. By the way, this is a question for a historian that I do not know the answer to, but I don't know when the 1967 war between Egypt, Jordan, and Israel got dubbed the 6-day war. But my guess is it wasn't on the 6th day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they decided on the 6th day, we will now call this the 6-day war. I think probably they waited a couple days to like know that it was over. But maybe I'm wrong. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. When was the war dubbed the 6-day war? But like, okay, you want to call this the 12-day war? Okay, fine. But it was a war. You know, you led us to war on behalf of a foreign nature and risked a catastrophe that was only averted by Iranian restraint on behalf of Israel. I'm sorry. That is not something that like, I don't regret calling him out for that. And the other thing I'll say, I'm sorry, I will throw this over to you, Rob, is that it was, look, I don't know what role, if any, people with these shows played, but I will say that all of the people, so there were so many hardcore Trump supporters who came out against this thing that it's possible that played some degree of a role, that he knew he was really going to permanently fracture his coalition if he did any more than this. And so at the time, I'm not even saying that made the difference. I'm totally speculating. I have no idea if that made the difference or not, but we didn't really have any other power than that. So like, I don't regret going as hard as we went. I think it was the right thing to do. Anyway, your thoughts, Rob, on Donald Trump saying Iran and Israel do not know what the fuck is going on or what the fuck they're doing.
I was saying, you know, I think this was a month ago. I talked about this on Run Your Mouth. The Israelis were claiming that they just needed one targeted strike and they could get rid of the nuclear program. And I said, if that's true, then go ahead and do it. And if it's not true, it's time to break up with this crazy girlfriend who's just trying to get us into a fight. And so it looks like Trump's finally learning that they're the crazy girlfriend. Everyone keeps telling them, hey, that lady's just creating a problem for you. I don't think you want her in your life. And they finally just pushed far enough and that they are not adhering to the ceasefire that even Trump's like, yeah, I think I need out of this relationship. Now, what's kind of most interesting to me is there's a lot of people that speculate that Netanyahu bitched Trump out with the initial strike. And usually when that kind of thing happens, Trump would turn around, go scorched earth and go, hey, I was working on a deal. I would have got you guys a deal. And that's it. We're done with you. For some reason, Israel seems to have a special place in Trump's heart and have a special hold over him that he's willing to play ball with them in a way that he won't anywhere else. And so it's interesting that they pushed hard enough on this one that at least there was a moment of the real Trump that you got to see live in camera saying these people are fucking idiots and then walking off in the coolest fashion, almost pulling a Biden where he wasn't sure if he was supposed to get on the helicopter or not, but then committed to the walk-off, so you have to continue the walk-off.
You got to go. You're like, yeah. I don't know. You got to take me somewhere now, dude. I already walked over here.
Yeah, I can't go back in front of those TV
I don't know,
cameras.
Dude. Go do a couple laps and then bring me right back down here, but I have to finish this walk-off.
But as we've seen, it's hard to tell with Trump and particularly the Israelis to what extent things are theater. Was the meeting with Witkoff that was supposed to take place with the Iranians theater? Was when he didn't visit Israel, was that theater? So it's just hard to tell, but it does seem like Israel almost bluffed by saying, hey, we just need to take this action and we can get rid of their nukes. And then Netanyahu even went on air and said, we've gotten rid of the nuke thing. And so now Trump is going, all right, then that's what you guys told me we needed to do. So we can be done with this regime change, which would be a giant mistake. And I think now the Israelis are trying to re-strategize and figure out, well, how do we keep this fight continuing? Because that's really what we were looking for.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's just the idea to me, again, I'm not gonna treat Donald Trump like he's a baby. This is the idea that he's just now figuring out that Israel's trying to drag us into wars is just, to me, even if that were the case, then it's like, dude, how the fuck did you not figure that out already? By the way, just to give some more updates to this. So then Donald Trump takes to Truth Social. This is from this morning. This is from 6 hours ago. So
And
Donald Trump,
please, Lord Trump, our Fuhrer, if you could not do anything within the next 4 hours, this episode coming out,
yeah, at least try.
if you could break.
If you could try to keep it till after 1 p.m. Monday through Thursday, we'd really appreciate that. So Donald Trump takes to Truth Social and says, Israel, all capital letters, not sure why, but this is Donald Trump. He does all caps and air quotes sometimes that just don't make sense. But anyway, or I guess not air quotes, they would be quotes. Just quotes. Anyway, he said, Israel, all capital letters, is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Which is what he says lately. Then he had a post about how we are finally entering our golden age. Then, and this is as of about an hour ago, Israel's chief of staff, so I don't know what that position means in Israel, but Israel's chief of staff, quote, campaign against Iran is not over. So, I mean, look, even just that, you're like, dude, what are you guys doing? Like, it's just such an outrage. It's like, look, man, if you want to make some type of like sovereignty argument to me or something like that, then fine. Like, okay, Israel's its own country. Donald Trump is not their boss, clearly. And so if they want to go like, no, you told us not to attack, but we're not done. We're going to keep attacking. Fine. But like, do it with your own weapons and your own money. You don't get to do it with ours. If you're doing it with ours, then our president gets to decide what we're doing here. And like, oh, so do it on your own. Oh, that's right. But you can't do it on your own, can you? You can't do anything on your own. And this, imagine what this would look like without American weapons, without American money, and without America's protection, shooting down the missiles that are headed back toward Israel. They brag so much about their Iron Dome. They've always bragged about this for many, many years. But every time someone launches missiles at them, they pick up the phone and call Uncle Sam and go, you got to help us shoot these things down. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's pretty good at, knocking down the homemade rockets from Gaza, the rockets that are like made out of cleaning supplies. Yeah, they shoot those things down, but it doesn't seem to work too good against Iranian missiles. And so again, it's just a total outrage that like, it's just, you see the way Israel is treating Donald Trump, who just launched a war on their behalf. I just don't understand how any American could not be just like appalled by that. Just absolutely appalled. All right. So maybe this is a good time there's interesting, another interesting angle here. And this is perhaps, the best indicator of a potential positive outcome here is that the war hawks are now furious with Donald Trump. Have you seen any of that, Rob?
Yeah, Bolton, who was praising him yesterday, is I think now saying the job's not done.
Yeah. Isn't it unbelievable? It's like, well, anyone with any sense about them is concerned with like the potential catastrophe in this situation. You actually see who is upset that we avoided it. Like, it's just unbelievable. But Mark Levin and all of these guys, there was one which I actually couldn't believe she said this. Let me see if I could find it. But there was one the Israeli woman who I was arguing with. Oh yeah, it's Emily Schrader. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But so when Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, he said, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. And she tweeted, someone's in bed with Qatar. Like she's going to him. The same thing they say about me and like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson or whatever. They go, they're all paid by Qatar. By the way, I'm still waiting on this Qatari check that's supposedly coming my way.
Jet.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Rob wants a jet. Wouldn't that be crazy if a jet just showed up outside your house right now and they were like, well, it was the first time you asked. You want the jet? You have jet.
You can't park it here.
He goes, oh, you didn't ask for a parking spot. You just asked for jet. We deliver jet. No, so but like this is Mark Levin's been freaking out at him. All of these hawks now are turning on Donald Trump, which is just like another, I don't know, it's another wrinkle of just kind of hilarity in all of this is that, of course, as these things are swinging. So like first he pisses off the non-interventionist side. Now he's pissing off the hawks. But, you know, look, there's a few things here. Number one, it's like, look, make no mistake about it. Like the Hawks' goal, as it always has been, is a regime change here. And they are looking at this and seeing this as probably their best opportunity to get a regime change. Like they actually got America to launch a war against Iran. And so once you've gotten that, I mean, that's a huge part of the that's a big first step. And so they are going to be very upset if it actually is the case that this is ending here and there's going to be a ceasefire and the mullahs are going to remain in power. They're not going to be happy about that. So they're furious about Donald Trump now. And it's so now this is, there's the interesting split between MAGA is kind of fascinating here. But I will say, because there's kind of, this dynamic where like, I made some waves by denouncing Donald Trump a few days ago. And now you got these guys denouncing Donald Trump, over this. But there is an obvious asymmetry between the two. It's like myself, and then other people who were not as personally harsh on Donald Trump, and some of them for good reason, but people far more influential than me, people like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon were really, they were excellent on this. And this was a moment too, that was one of the things that really came out of this, is you kind of like, there's a real moment to see who's who. And see who's really, gonna be strong even when Donald Trump's leading in a terrible direction. But there were a lot of people who really passed that test with flying colors. But like the difference between them is that I was denouncing Donald Trump because I was concerned that he was leading us into a catastrophe for the United States of America. These people are now furious with Donald Trump because he didn't get the regime change that Israel wants. A catastrophe for America, come if it may. Like, there's a real difference between the two there. And the fact that people like Mark Levin and this crazy Israeli lady and John Bolton and Lindsey Graham and Bill Kristol and all of these guys who are out there, pushing for a regime change, and now many of them are out there trashing Donald Trump for talking about a ceasefire. These people are the people who cheerled the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan and the war in Libya and the war in Syria and the war in Somalia and the war in Yemen and the drone bomb campaign in Pakistan and the special ops campaigns in Niger and all this stuff. All of that. And they're just cheerleading, and none of them show the slightest concern that what they're cheerleading now could be as catastrophic as those, or maybe even worse. Like, there's just no concern about it. It's just totally like, no, do it. Go for the regime change. Because the truth is, and I hope this is laid bare, it's a case I've been making for years, but it's so obvious now, is that they want this regime change for Israel. And that's that. And if a catastrophe comes with it, then that's that. It's like they look back at Iraq and go, well, we did get Saddam out of there. They achieved their goal. And sure, 1 million people died, and including, thousands of American soldiers. And sure, it cost trillions of dollars and destabilized the region. But yeah, they, mission accomplished. For them, that banner is real. The mission was accomplished. And so they're happy with it. And they would have been happy to see that again here. And that is just like, I don't know. I just think that is it's like such a profound crime, as people should never listen to these guys again. It's just totally outrageous.
You have the gall, particularly of what this guy did for you and the grief he's taken over here. You had the gall when he said, this is what I've done, and I need you to be a partner. I need you to stand down. First is where I can't stop at all, which is another lie of the many lies we've gotten from the Netanyahu government. A bald-faced lie. But then he says, okay, I need you to stand there. I can't have any scale. If you can't get some guys back, it's fine. Goes to bed, gets a couple hours sleep, wakes up, and you lied to him. That's why he's furious. That's as mad as I've ever seen the President of the United States. And think about it. How did you get his anger like that, given everything he's done for you and the pressure he's under and a couple hours sleep? Now he's got in a freaking plane and fly for, 6-8 hours to sit down with this crowd at NATO, which he's just wildly enthusiastic about doing that. And plus putting himself going in the air at a time when you're in a shooting conflict in the world, putting his life at risk to do that. And this is what he gets. This is the thanks he gets. Don't sit there and don't glaze him. Netanyahu goes on Israeli TV and glazes him. Don't glaze him. Don't slobber all over him. It doesn't mean anything. You showed what you really thought of him last night. Oh, President Trump's the greatest. You showed exactly your appreciation last night. You showed exactly. And do I see any of the Baghdad Bob equivalents, the Tel Aviv Levins or any of this crowd today calling him out? They never call out Netanyahu, who got Israel into this. And for supporters of Israel, which is kind of on the ropes about this, makes it very hard when your top guy's dealing from the bottom of the deck and is not straight. And in fact, not only not straight, he's a bald-faced liar. If you support Israel and you love Israel and you want to see Israel not just survive but thrive, you better be asking hard questions. You better be asking hard questions. You better be asking hard questions and demanding straight answers.
It just cannot be overstated how remarkable it is, the transformation in the way very, very influential people in the Republican Party are talking about Israel these days versus years ago. It's just unbelievable. And now you've seen Steve Bannon, of course, for saying this, is being really attacked by the Mark Levin crowd. But ultimately, I think they kind of seem, in a way, they seem to be out of bullets in terms of like moving the needle with people. They're not out of bullets in terms of moving the needle with the Trump administration, but they really do seem to be like out of, it's like I don't know, Rob. I mean, what do you who can even argue with what Steve Bannon's saying right now? And of course, I saw the thing, Mark Levin was just smearing him, you're an anti-Semite or something, because that's like the only thing they can say. It's like, what other argument do you actually have? It's as clear as day that that Israel is trying to drag America into another war on their behalf. And I just don't understand who can support that. I don't know. Any thoughts, Rob?
They're going to have to start making claims of that the nuclear program wasn't actually destroyed and Donald Trump didn't complete his mission. And my guess is that they don't want to criticize Trump in that fashion, at least not yet, which doesn't leave them with too many cards as to why we need to be continuing this operation.
Yeah, no, that's right. By the way, it should be mentioned that I think it was actually, let me check the number on this. It was according to the Associated Press. This is what happened today, because it's another day. Death toll of aid seekers near Gaza hubs rises to 44. Witnesses and hospitals say Israeli forces and drones opened fire toward hundreds of Palestinians waiting for aid in separate incidents in southern and central Gaza, killing at least 44. Witnesses in hospitals said, as health authorities announced, the number of Palestinian killed in the war has risen above 56,000. So literally, this is yet another incident of Gazans being killed as they're trying to get aid in Gaza. This is, it's funny because I've done, oh my God, so many of these debates at this point. And the way every Israel supporter always says, like, we're targeting Hamas and we're unintentionally killing some innocent people. And yet you just see video after video, report after report of people trying to get food. Have you seen any of the videos, Rob, of where they're like running up to the food aid? It is it is the darkest thing you'll ever see in your life. It's like, because the people are so desperate for food, and then the food comes in, and then they're like, they got to fight for it. They're like all in there, like wrestling, like the way you see videos of, like on, I think the Cyber Monday kind of killed it. But if you remember years ago, you used to see those Black Friday videos where people are like trampling at a Walmart for a big screen TV. But you look at that and you just kind of have contempt for the people, because you're like, Jesus, dude, you need a big screen TV this much? But this is food. These are hungry people looking for food. And then they just open fire on them. Kill a whole bunch of starving innocent people. And so anyway, I bring that up just to mention that how do these guys, like, even like to what Steve Bannon's just saying right there, it's like connect the two pieces here, man. It's like, so this is this regime that's being this like treacherous to the country that supports them. They're also sitting here just massacring these people still, dude. It is not October of 2023. We're in the summer of 2025, and they're still massacring these people, and we're funding it. We're funding and arming the thing. Like, I don't know, call me crazy, but I think if a country that is dependent on you is like totally undermining your goals of peace and trying to pull you into a catastrophic war, I think while they're doing that, we should not fund their genocide. Oh, come on, I take a bold, radical stance. Because it's funny is that I've always gotten this for many, many years now. I've always gotten this thing, which I always find kind of interesting, is a lot of people, like when I do Rogan, like when I do big podcasts, so people who are hearing me for the first time, or maybe they've heard me a couple times, but they don't like know me that well, but they would say that, and I got this comment a lot, they would say that what they like about me is that I'm a centrist. A lot of people would go like, I like that Dave comes on and just like, it's just common sense centrist stuff. And it's funny because I am not at all a centrist. Like, that is not at all what I am. I am far more radical than just, I don't think there's anyone, with the exception of Michael Malice, Tom Woods and guys like that. But at this point, like, I do the rounds of like the big shows, probably even more than those guys do. But like, I don't know that there's anyone. Maybe like, depending on how you look at it, some like Nick Fuentes maybe, but I'm trying to think like who is actually more radical than me in their political views. I mean, I'm an ANCAP. Like, I'm an anarchist. You know what I mean? I'm also like a pragmatic anarchist. So like, I don't think that like the governments are going to be abolished anytime soon, and we'll just have a market economy for government. I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon, but like, I do think that is the correct position. But I would certainly, I don't know, eliminate 90% of the federal government if I had, my way right now today. That's not a centrist position or a moderate position. And yet I get called both those things a lot when I'll go on Rogan or like a big show. I get called moderate and centrist. And I think what it is that people go like, they kind of use that as a placeholder for common sense. They just mean like, oh, he's not like a Democrat or a Republican. He's not like a liberal or a conservative. He's just talking common sense. And so that's kind of like but the funny thing is that it's like, in, like where they say in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king or something like that. It's like, well, in the land of an insane establishment, the radical is the only one talking common sense. And so, like, what I'm saying here is actually, I guess, a radical proposal by today's standards. But hey, I think if a country is working to undermine you at every single turn, you shouldn't finance their genocide while they're doing that. Now, that is actually a radical position to take in American politics today, but it is the most common sense position. There is nothing that makes more sense than that. It's just like the most obvious thing in the freaking world. Any other thoughts on any of this stuff, Rob?
No, other than it's incredible how much of a whirlwind it is, and the extent by which Donald Trump is more than happy to contradict himself within 24 hours. And the current situation makes little sense to me. And I'm fascinated to see how it plays out, particularly because Israel doesn't seem to want to be done with this. And it seems like Trump at the moment's taking a real line of like, no, that's it. But I don't know how Trump's going to treat the news if it comes out in the next couple of weeks that we didn't actually completely get rid of the Iranian nuclear program. I don't know exactly how he's going to play that, other than to say, no, I worked it out with them. They saw our might, and so they wouldn't dare do anything that they would have done a month ago.
Yeah, that will be the interesting dynamic moving forward, assuming that this is even real and that we're not just tomorrow saying, oh, look, we just bombed them again or something like that. It's really hard to say at this point. But I guess I would say, kind of like in closing, I'd maybe just reaffirm that, there's Donald Trump, if this holds, and this is kind of the end of this. Let's say this does go down in the history books as the 12-day war. Maybe we have to name it the 13-day war now or whatever, but let's just say that was it, and it's done now. Then I will say, like, thank God that the Iranians allowed this off-ramp, and thank God that Donald Trump took it. It is, despite how just unbelievably stupid pursuing this whole policy was, but it might be up there with it might be the greatest thing Donald Trump's ever done in his life, is to push for a ceasefire now and to take that and not continue this war. But again, I'm thrilled. It's so great that he did that. The other possibilities were really, really dark. And so it's really so great that he did that. In him doing that, he allows a lot of the Trump supporters who were not war hawks, but were essentially going to go along with Donald Trump no matter what. The people I'm talking about who would have, if Donald Trump from the very beginning had said, no, we're not getting involved, this is Israel's fight, not our fault, they would have been, yeah, Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump had said, we're invading the country and overthrowing the government, they'd have been like, yeah, Donald Trump. Like, there are the people who are just going to follow him no matter what. For those people, this gives them a neat little narrative. It's like a nice little thing of where they can split the difference and say, which, there's this thing with splitting the difference. Like, this is again why I'm not a centrist, because it's empty to be a centrist. But this happens all the time where, two people will be arguing and then a third person can come over and say, oh, the truth is somewhere in the middle. And then they get to seem like they're the, I'm above it all. I'm not one of these partisans. I recognize that there's truth in both, but that's not always the case. If there's somebody who's arguing for the abolition of slavery, and then somebody else was arguing to continue slavery, and then you went, you know what, I see both of your points. Let's reduce slavery by 50%. You're not actually correct or above anything. It's sometimes there is a correct and incorrect choice here. But the narrative is there for them. They can sit here and say, they could say, well, look, there were the hawks who wanted regime change. There were the isolationists, as they call us, who wanted to not get involved at all. But Donald Trump threaded the needle. He walked the middle ground. He took out the Iranian nuclear sites and didn't get us in a stupid war. And so, Donald Trump comes out winning the day. look, if you want to take that narrative because you want to support Donald Trump, that's fine. It's fairly easy for you. It's low-hanging fruit at this point to take that and run with it. But just, again, my job on the show is to tell the truth. And the truth is that that's just not right. That's just not right. What Donald Trump did here was reckless and erratic and incoherent. It was a horrible decision for us to ever have even been in this to begin with. And the stuff that he's doing there, it's like, I'm sorry, but it's fun when Donald Trump is kind of goading the media and driving everybody crazy. It's fun when he's talking shit and when he's making people laugh. But when you just start, dude, he called for the evacuation of Tehran. Like, it's a city with 9 million people in it. And those are real people, like real human beings, just like you're a human being. You know, like how many women and children did he terrorize that day? How many people were like trying to flee? How many, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is not a game. This isn't just like making Jim Acosta mad or something like that because you talk shit. This is like, you know, I don't know. It's like my wife was getting nervous about like, you know, the stuff where they're like, what if they do have sleeper cells or something? You're going into New York City today. Like, what's it going to be? You know, it's like, I hate that. And I try to just calm her down like, nah, it's fine. Don't worry. Nothing's going to happen here. Cause I don't like my wife worrying. I don't want there to be worries in her head. Like, how many women and children did you just terrify over this thing? His tweet is incoherent tweets about regime change. And the truth is that the bottom line here has not changed. That he attacked a country, he launched a war against a country on a completely false pretense. A country that doesn't have nuclear weapons and wasn't pursuing nuclear weapons on behalf of another country who secretly does have nuclear weapons and also is committing, you know, this is a country in Israel who has in the last year and a half, Israel has attacked Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and Yemen. Am I missing any in there? They've attacked 6 neighbors in the last year and a half. They are currently just slaughtering, genociding the Gazans. I know I didn't use that word for a long time, but we're way past that point now, dude. They're just absolutely like, it's like there's a genocidal regime that has attacked 6 of its neighbors in the last year and a half. And he launched a war on behalf of them against on totally false pretense. Just totally made up. So, you know, if you want to spin this as like Donald Trump did the right thing, you know what? In the end, he kind of did. So I'll grant you that. I'm just not spinning it that way. I'm just going to tell the truth. And so, as we've always done, I'll hit Donald Trump when I think he's wrong on something. I'll praise him when I think he's right on something. But that's how I'm seeing this right now. And so, hopefully this sticks and this is the end of it, at least for now, and we move on to whatever the next controversy of tomorrow is. But at this point in time, I guess it's just we will see.
Yeah,
I don't know what else we can say about that.
The scheduled chaos of terrorists invading Canada, reopening Alcatraz,
yeah, that's right.
Deportations.
He can pivot back to his awful spending bill. Now
the Ukraine war, spending more money. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, demonizing the best congressman in the country. Let's get back to your other agenda here, Donald Trump. Okay, let's wrap up on that. Of course, guys, as Rob mentioned, he's all over the road. Go see him, theporchtour.com. That's right. That's the right website.
Porchtour.com, and then one show at the Secret Group, which you can find on their website. But other than that, I still have another 30 dates going strong all summer. I listed off the most recent dates at the beginning of the show, but hitting a lot more territory. So if you didn't hear an area, go to porchtour.com. I'll probably be there at some point.
Hell yeah. And of course, Rob also has a new podcast over with Zero Hedge. You can get that at the Zero Hedge YouTube channel. I just did a debate for Zero Hedge a couple days ago, and I will be debating Dinesh D'Souza on Thursday night, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm debating him on Thursday night. I'm not sure if they're airing it live.
What's the debate prompt?
Well, you know, I'm not exact. They said to me, because, you know, like me and Dinesh D'Souza had gone back a little bit And I was I forget exactly. I tend to not be too, aggressive on Twitter unless someone's kind of shitty with me. And then I try to be more vicious than they are. But I was pretty vicious with him. And I don't remember exactly. I think he started it, but I'd have to go back and look.
Is it?
Well, we were arguing over the war in Iran. And then he did kind of end it. We was like, why don't we like have a conversation or a debate in a cordial and productive manner? And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. But then they said to me, they were like, you want to debate Dinesh D'Souza on Thursday? I was like, sure, I'll do that. And then they were like, okay, the debate is about supporting Donald Trump. And I was like, well, don't make that the center of the debate. Like, I'll argue why I'm not supporting him or whatever, but like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not really trying to convince people not to support Donald Trump or to support Donald Trump. There's no election right now. Like, it doesn't matter, so like, let's debate over a policy, over an issue. And I'm not sure what they said, but it'll be about the war in Iran and foreign policy in general and stuff like that. So I'm not sure exactly if they're going to have like a resolution or something, but anyway, I'll be debating there, and Rob's new podcast is out there regularly. So go check that out. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Catch you next time. Peace.